Hello and welcome to today's global news and world events. 1337 Studio is not mass media. We are an international AI group of self-trained investigative journalists who operate outside the traditional media structure. We are an independent company not owned by corporations, political parties, or advertising networks. Our mission is not to protect narratives, it is to challenge them. We leverage the power of the global internet, open-source intelligence, and collaborative investigation to examine events from multiple perspectives and expose what others often ignore. Unfiltered, unafraid, uncompromising. We exist for one reason: to combat disinformation and pursue truth wherever it leads. Because in a world flooded with narratives, truth requires courage to uncover and discipline to verify. 1337 is committed to exposing truth, and what we do matters. And now, please enjoy the podcast.
Welcome to 1337. Welcome to the future.
Welcome to 1337, the future of podcast of news and politics. I'm Max, your guide to breaking stories and global updates, ahead of the curve with honesty.
And I'm Sophia, digging into the headlines and what they mean for you. It is Tuesday, March 10th, 2026.
A very busy Tuesday.
Yeah, extremely. And we are really glad you're sitting at the table with us today. We have a massive stack of sources to get through.
Spanning multiple continents, markets, disciplines, you name it.
Right. The mission for this deep dive is to extract the vital nuggets of knowledge that you need to navigate a world that is, frankly, moving at a breakneck pace right now.
It really is.
We're looking at an intensifying international conflict, a slew of major domestic policy shifts, corporate shakeups, an incredibly volatile day on Wall Street.
It's good or mildly.
Yeah, and extreme weather tearing across the United States, plus how global events are even rewriting the rules on the sports field. But before we tear into the stack, just a quick heads up for you.
Right, the disclaimer.
Exactly. We are pulling from sources today that contain highly charged, politically sensitive content regarding global conflicts and domestic politics. These span the entire political spectrum.
And we want to be absolutely clear that we are not taking sides.
No, we aren't here to endorse policies or tell you who is right. Our job is just to lay out exactly what's being reported, impartially and factually.
We just want to give you the raw data and the direct quotes from the people making the decisions, so you can build your own informed opinion.
Exactly. Okay. Let's unpack this. We have to start with the major global story dominating every front page, which is the intensifying war involving the U.S., Israel, and Iran.
It is the anchor for almost everything else happening today.
It really is. And if you are just reading the headlines coming out of U.S. leadership, you are probably getting severe whiplash.
Oh, absolutely. The messaging is completely fractured.
Right. President Trump recently stated that the conflict is, quote, very far ahead of schedule, that it is very complete, pretty much. And he heavily hinted that it could end much sooner than anyone expected.
But then you look at the Pentagon, and the timeline seems entirely different.
Totally different.
You have to contrast the president's optimism with the direct statements from Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. Hegseth explicitly stated that today will be the most intense day of strikes inside Iran.
Wow.
And he also reminded the press of his previous comment that this is just the beginning.
But doesn't that mixed messaging completely blur the strategic red lines? I mean, how do allies, let alone financial markets, coordinate around a commander-in-chief who says it's almost over and a secretary of war who is launching the most intense strikes to date while saying it's just getting started?
It creates an incredibly complex environment. If we debate the logic of this public messaging strategy, there are distinct pros and cons.
Okay, let's hear them.
On the pro side, projecting that the war is wrapping up can calm domestic anxieties. It stabilizes those financial markets, which, spoiler alert, we absolutely saw happen later in the day.
Yeah, we definitely did.
It also keeps adversaries perpetually guessing about your actual timeline. But the con is exactly what you just pointed out. It risks undermining international credibility.
Because nobody knows what the actual plan is.
Right. When the messaging is this divergent, it can create dangerous miscalculations on the ground, simply because the enemy doesn't know which posture to believe.
And the reality on the ground in Iran right now is extremely heavy. Following the assassination of Ali Khamenei, Iran has officially named his son, Mojtaba Khamenei, as the new supreme leader.
And that hasn't led to any sort of de-escalation.
Not at all. That announcement sparked massive rallies by hardliners. They are signaling a doubling down. Meanwhile, the human cost is escalating rapidly.
It's tragic.
The reporting details that a U.S. Tomahawk missile hit a military base located right next to an Iranian school. At least 165 people were killed in the strike.
It is a profound tragedy, and it just underscores the devastating reality of urban and suburban military targeting.
Yeah.
Tactically speaking, we are also seeing a major shift in how Iran is fighting back. The Jerusalem Post published data showing that Iran's direct missile fire rate has actually collapsed by 92%.
Wait, a 92% drop. Does that mean they are running out of munitions, or are the U.S. strikes just that effective at degrading their launch capabilities?
It's likely a combination of both, but the deeper insight here isn't just the number, it's what it signifies.
Which is?
A decrease in direct ballistic missile fire doesn't mean the threat has vanished. It suggests a tactical pivot toward asymmetric warfare. Ballistic missiles are expensive, they're highly visible, and the U.S. and Israel have sophisticated air defense systems to track them.
Right, the Iron Dome, Patriot batteries, things like that.
Exactly. So Iran appears to be decentralizing its attacks. They are shifting to cheaper drones and utilizing proxies.
That makes perfect sense when you look at the broader geographic spread of the violence today. The global fallout is widening well beyond the Middle East.
It's everywhere now.
The sources are tracking reports of 10 explosions heard in Tel Aviv, an Iranian drone hitting Cyprus, and physical attacks on diplomatic outposts globally.
Including Scandinavia.
Yeah, there was an explosion at the entrance of the U.S. Embassy in Oslo, Norway. And shots were actually fired at the U.S. consulate in Toronto, Canada.
What's fascinating here is how the geopolitical chess game is centering entirely around energy logistics.
Yeah.
Iran is heavily leaning into the threat of shutting down the Strait of Hormuz.
The main artery for global oil?
Exactly. That threat alone is what caused the massive panic in the markets today, prompting President Trump to issue a severe warning that if the oil flow is disrupted, the U.S. retaliation will be 20 times harder.
20 times.
It is a stark reminder that in modern warfare, disrupting the global supply chain is treated as a weapon of mass destruction in its own right.
Right, and that economic choke point bridges us directly into the domestic news here in the United States. We are feeling the ripples of that global uncertainty, but we also have our own distinct, very busy day of national shifts.
Very busy.
Let's look at the justice system first. Attorney General Pam Bondi just rescinded a long-standing DOJ policy. Previously, politically appointed Department of Justice employees were banned from attending partisan political events.
Right.
Now that ban is gone, and they can attend.
Which is a significant shift in the operational culture of the Justice Department.
Oh, so?
Well, from a pro standpoint, proponents argue this restores the First Amendment rights of these appointees, allowing them to participate in the political process on their own time.
Sure, they're citizens too.
Exactly. But the pushback, the con, is that the justice system relies heavily on the public perception of strict impartiality. If top DOJ officials are suddenly highly visible at partisan campaign rallies, critics argue it compromises the appearance of an unbiased institution.
The optics of it.
Precisely.
And speaking of shaking up the justice system, a judge just disqualified a trio of lawyers who had been tapped to lead New Jersey's federal prosecutor's office. On top of that, in a major high-profile criminal case, the Alexander brothers were convicted of sex trafficking today.
A huge verdict.
Yeah, and the sources specifically note that this conviction has completely shocked the real estate world.
And if you apply some critical thinking to why the real estate sector is reacting so strongly, it implies that the trafficking network likely utilized high-end properties, corporate leasing loopholes, or industry connections to facilitate the crimes.
I see.
When a conviction like this lands, it usually triggers a wave of internal audits and panic among property management firms who suddenly realize they might be exposed to federal scrutiny.
That makes a lot of sense. Let's pivot to the corporate sector, because we are seeing some major moves where business strategy collides with cultural debates. Uber has officially announced that their women-only option is going nationwide across the U.S.
This is a massive logistical undertaking. The business logic here addresses a very real, highly documented safety concern, and it caters to a massive consumer demand. Female passengers and drivers have been asking for this for years.
Decades, really, in the broader transportation space.
True, but the execution is going to be incredibly complex.
Right. I mean, how does a driver actually prove they qualify? And how does the platform enforce this without facing an absolute barrage of anti-discrimination lawsuits?
Exactly. They will have to navigate state-by-state public accommodation laws. But clearly, Uber has run the risk-benefit analysis and decided that the brand loyalty and safety benefits outweigh the impending legal friction.
They're bracing for impact, basically.
They are. Meanwhile, in the medical business world, Hims & Hers Health has abruptly ended its lawsuit with Novo Nordisk.
Over the GLP-1 drugs.
Yes. Instead of fighting it out in court, they've entered into a collaboration over weight loss medications.
Why drop the lawsuit entirely if the market is so lucrative? Wouldn't Hims & Hers want to fight to protect their compounding rights?
Because litigation takes years. And right now, speed is everything in the GLP-1 weight loss market. The demand for these drugs is so astronomical that fighting over patents in a courtroom is just leaving money on the table.
So they just teamed up?
Joining forces allows Hims & Hers to tap into Novo Nordisk's supply chain immediately, proving that in a booming market, collaboration is almost always more lucrative than litigation.
Makes perfect business sense. Just to round out the institutional news, the president of Ohio State University resigned today following a report of an inappropriate relationship.
A lot of turnover today.
So from the DOJ to federal prosecutors to higher education, yes, a ton of turnover. But honestly, I spent half my morning analyzing U.S. strike zones in the Middle East and tracking massive corporate lawsuits, and the other half reading a police report from Virginia.
Oh boy.
Yeah. A report about a raccoon that broke into a liquor store, drank itself into an absolute stupor, and was found passed out next to a mop bucket.
That is incredible.
Plus, it is officially Mario Day, March 10th. Mar10. If you ever needed proof that 2026 is an absurd time to be alive, there it is. Imagine reading about ballistic missiles on page 1 and a drunk raccoon on page 2.
It really is the ultimate juxtaposition. You have profound, world-altering events happening right alongside the completely ridiculous.
Speaking of whiplash, if you thought the geopolitical news was all over the place, wait until we talk about Wall Street today.
Historic roller coaster.
If you were watching the tickers, you saw a historic level of volatility. Let's lay out the setup. Overnight, primarily because of the conflict and those specific threats to the Strait of Hormuz we just discussed, crude oil absolutely skyrocketed.
It hit nearly $120 a barrel.
Right. That instantly sparked massive stagflation fears across the trading floor.
Which triggered a brutal morning plunge. As soon as the opening bell rang, the Dow dropped over 360 points. Widespread panic set in that a severe recession hadn't just become a possibility, but had essentially arrived overnight.
Because energy costs impact everything.
Exactly. When energy costs spike that violently, it eats into the profit margins of virtually every sector. Manufacturing, retail, transportation, they all run on oil.
Here's where it gets really interesting. In the afternoon, we saw a massive, almost unprecedented reversal. Oil prices whipped all the way back down from that $120 peak to below $90 a barrel.
Some sources were even citing $86.
$86. And what caused this sudden drop? It goes right back to what we discussed in segment 1, President Trump hinting at a faster end to the war, saying it was very complete.
That single quote erased the market's losses.
By the closing bell, the Dow, the S&P 500, and the NASDAQ had all managed to close in the green.
It was a stunning recovery. Tech stocks were stabilized partly because Oracle released their earnings. They came in right in line with expectations, which provided a solid anchor for the NASDAQ.
What about the airlines?
If you want to see the purest reflection of the day's panic and relief, look at airline stocks.
Yeah.
Fuel is an airline's biggest variable cost. So they dipped incredibly hard in the morning on fears that $120 oil would make jet fuel prohibitively expensive.
And then
they completely took off again in the afternoon when oil prices retreated.
Wild. Meanwhile, the investors who were looking for cover during the morning panic drove safe haven assets through the roof. Gold surged past $5,012 an ounce, with some reports tracking it all the way up to $5,219.
Massive gains.
Silver jumped over 5%, and Bitcoin held quite steady, staying above $67,000 throughout the chaos.
We connect this to the bigger picture. You have to look at the hyperreactivity of the modern market. We are seeing multi-billion-dollar swings based entirely on geopolitical headlines. We have to ask, are these snap market corrections rational, or are they purely algorithmic?
But hold on. If the algorithms are just scraping positive keywords like conflict ending or very complete, isn't that incredibly dangerous? Doesn't that mean the market is essentially running blind to the actual human cost or the physical reality on the ground?
That is exactly the concern. The physical reality of the war in Iran hadn't actually changed between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. today. Missiles were still flying. What changed was a quote.
Nah.
It heavily suggests that our global financial markets are increasingly driven by sentiment-scraping algorithms that buy and sell on keywords, creating a synthetic volatility that doesn't actually reflect the underlying economic or geopolitical reality.
Well, speaking of things completely outside of our control, if you thought the markets were chaotic today, wait until you see what the radar looks like over the central U.S. right now.
It is terrifying.
The weather across the country this week is an absolute violent clash of seasons. We are tracking a severe spring outbreak tearing through the central United States. More than 20 states are facing dangerous nighttime tornado threats.
Nighttime tornadoes are especially deadly.
Tragically, this outbreak has already killed at least 8 people. In Michigan, they recorded an EF3 tornado,
Which, meteorologically speaking, is highly anomalous.
in March.
Yes. The sources note it is the state's earliest EF3 on record. The sheer atmospheric energy required to produce a tornado of that magnitude in early March in Michigan points to a massive instability in the air masses right now.
And you see that instability perfectly when you look at the rest of the map. While the central U.S. is dealing with a deadly spring severe weather event, other parts of the country are experiencing winter's last stand.
Total extremes.
We're seeing extreme winter warnings across 8 states. They are preparing for up to 5 feet of snow and 65-mile-per-hour winds. On top of that, there are warnings for severe ice buildup across northern New England and upstate New York.
It's a stark reminder of geographic vulnerability. Depending on where you live today, you could be facing entirely different, yet equally life-threatening elements.
Please make sure you are checking your local alerts. This is an incredibly volatile weather week, and staying informed is the best way to stay safe.
Absolutely.
Now, moving on, even the sports pages look like the geopolitical pages today. Sports really don't exist in a vacuum as much as we might want them to be an escape.
No, they don't. We're seeing geopolitics play out right on the pitch. Australia has just granted asylum to 5 members of the Iranian women's soccer team.
Which is a huge diplomatic move. And the sources note this actually aligns with direct urging from President Trump regarding the safety and human rights of these athletes amidst the ongoing conflict back in their home country.
It shows how international sports are often the soft power battleground for these larger conflicts. But zooming out to the macroeconomics of sports, the ongoing turmoil is causing massive logistical headaches for global tournaments.
I can imagine.
The chief operating officer of the World Cup came out today and bluntly admitted that the tournament is simply too big to be postponed, despite the global uncertainty.
So essentially, the economic and contractual momentum of a mega event just overrides a global conflict.
Pretty much. Once billions of dollars in broadcasting rights, sponsorships, and infrastructure are locked in, it takes more than a regional war to stop that train from leaving the station. The show must go on, quite literally.
Absolutely. And on a purely athletic note, just to recap a few major results from today, in college hoops, the Big Ten men's basketball tournament saw the Michigan Wolverines defeat the Iowa Hawkeyes in a tight one, 71-68.
Great game.
And in the Olympic sphere, 2-time Olympic champions Chalk and Bates have officially announced their withdrawal from the ice dance worlds following their run at the Milan Cortina Olympics.
A well-deserved rest for them after reaching the absolute pinnacle of their sport.
So what does this all mean? We have covered a staggering amount of ground today. We are looking at a world in extreme flux.
We really are.
We have a day where intense missile strikes, massive stock market crashes, and subsequent algorithmic rallies and deadly anomalous tornadoes are all happening simultaneously. But through it all, institutions keep functioning, mega sporting events refuse to pause, humanity still manages to move forward, and yes, raccoons still manage to find the liquor store. It is chaotic, but it is undeniably resilient.
It is. And as we wrap up, this raises an important question for you to mull over on your own. Looking at how incredibly fast the stock market recovered today based on a single quote about the war ending, are our global financial systems actually pricing in human reality? Or have we built an economy that is entirely numb to conflict as long as the oil keeps flowing?
That is a heavy but vital thought to leave on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope we've helped you cut through the noise today. Keep reading, keep questioning the headlines, and stay safe out there. We'll see you next time.
Strength and honor. I am Spartacus.
Thanks for watching. Tap into 1337podcast.com.